Hi, and welcome to Kayne's Top 5 Under 5, the 5 most important stories in cybersecurity for January 2024. Our first story is about the new rules for public companies from the SEC that became effective on December 18th, 2023. Eric Girding from the SEC provided clarification on these rules, emphasizing the overarching goal of this disclosure requirement is not to add to a company's compliance checklist and not to penalize companies for minor errors. The new rules hinge on a materiality standard that aligns with the Supreme Court's criteria and existing SEC rules as detailed in Staff Accounting Bulletin 99. This approach is intended to ensure that disclosures focus on the substantial effects of major cybersecurity incidents, thus aiding investors in making informed decisions. If you've heard a CISO complaining that they didn't get a special definition of materiality, go tell them to read SAB 99. Our second story is related to those new SEC rules. Researchers conducted a study revealing significant limitations in the ability of advanced artificial intelligence models to accurately interpret financial documents, particularly those from the Securities and Exchange Commissions. Despite their sophisticated design, these AI models, including GPT-4 Turbo from OpenAI, demonstrated a notable struggle with SEC findings. With a success rate of merely 79% in responding to queries based on these documents, the AI models frequently either avoided answering or generated incorrect data, a problem known as hallucination. This means that humans are going to need to continue reading and writing those SEC disclosures for now. Our third story is about the U.S. Department of Defense, which has introduced expected updates to its Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC, impacting contractors and subcontractors. There's only a little new here to talk about. A crucial aspect of this update is the assessment and affirmation requirements. Contractors across all levels are required to conduct thorough evaluations of their cybersecurity compliance and report their findings to the DoD. This process also mandates an annual affirmation of compliance by a senior official. These regulations will undergo a phased rollout, culminating in full implementation by October 2026. This gives contractors and subcontractors a timeline to adapt to these cybersecurity standards. However, the implications are clear. Cybersecurity is no longer optional, but a requirement for working with the DoD. Our fourth story is about AI, because that's still a thing. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, through the ONC, has finalized the HTI-1 rule. This rule was initially proposed in April 2023, and it's the first major AI regulation in the United States. Key features of the rule include unprecedented transparency requirements for artificial intelligence and predictive algorithms within health IT. The focus is on fostering responsible AI, enabling clinicians to understand and evaluate the algorithms they use in terms of fairness and safety. Effective January 1st, 2025, health IT developers must adhere to these new requirements. This includes providing detailed information about IT design, development, training data sets, and evaluation processes with an emphasis on diverse demographic data. Developers are also required to conduct a thorough risk analysis and mitigation, focusing on fairness, security, and privacy. The ONC's guidelines describe the development and monitoring process for AI tools, emphasizing the importance of understanding and explanation of tool design and operation. This regulation in the United States healthcare field might set a precedent for other industries in terms of AI development and regulation. Finally, for our fifth story, it's a new year, so we have new laws. Recent developments in cybersecurity legislation have emerged in Oklahoma, Iowa, and Tennessee, offering new dimensions to the concept of safe harbor laws. These new laws introduce unique approaches to mitigate the risks associated with data breaches, and I'm really interested with what's going to happen in Iowa. Iowa's law brings a novel perspective by emphasizing finances, applicable to all businesses. It introduces the maximum probable loss concept. Companies are now required to annually estimate potential damages from data breaches and align their cybersecurity budgets accordingly. This approach aims to balance cybersecurity investments with the realistic assessment of potential risks. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out in practice and in a year where I've heard that budgets are going to be flat. In Oklahoma, the focus is on healthcare. The new law, effective in November, specifically has a tailored approach to protect sensitive healthcare data, but it doesn't go as far as the broader scope suggested by similar legislation in states like New York. In Tennessee, they shift the focus to data privacy. Their new law sets forth guidelines on data management and usage, establishing an affirmative defense specifically for claims under this act. Thanks for watching today, and if you want to learn from top cybersecurity experts, be sure to follow our LinkedIn and YouTube page where we host our series of interviews with InfoSec pros.